When is there a day where I don't have something to say?
Well, you got enough cameras on you.
Every camera's on us. So yeah.
AJ will be here next.
So did you know that Miss Connie started selling health and life insurance?
Who?
Constance, Connie, Junior's mama. Light skin. I don't think you've ever met her.
Well, yeah, well.
You know Jasmine?
Yeah. Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is adolescence and substance abuse. And we're fortunate to have with us to talk about adolescence and the various types of substance that are abused, Alana McLaughlin. Alana, let me welcome you to the show this morning and to say how delighted we are to have you and to remind our audience that you started with us about 6 years ago. And you're still with us, and I think giving us excellent shows. And that is one of the reasons that we have you back each time, because you do give us some excellent information in reference to people within your age group especially. And that's why I think today we decided to call this show, at your suggestion, Adolescence and Child Abuse. But before we get started into this topic this morning, Alana, let's have you to give us some information in reference to your background, education, and some of your experiences, and then we'll talk about adolescence and substance abuse for the second segment.
Well, Dr. Haney, as you've already stated, my name is Alana McLaughlin. I am 13 years old. I will be 14 next month, which will be August 27th. Next school year, since we just finished one, I'll be attending the Nashville School of the Arts. I go to NSA for trumpet. I'm in the music category. That's really what I excel in. And I'm also in marching band with Pearl Cone High School. Go BOT. And basically, my pastimes include reading, writing, playing music. I play trumpet and piano and various instruments within the trumpet range, like horn, cornet, all those, French horn, things like that. And so that's basically my life. And of course, coming here and sharing knowledge about subjects I know about and that I can sometimes even relate to, see firsthand and give a big insight on that subjects like the one that we're talking about today.
Okay, and that's what we will talk about today, Alana, adolescence and substance abuse. Let's, before we have our second segment, let's get started in terms of identifying certain terms in terms of the individuals or the people that we're dealing with and the substances that you would like to highlight this morning.
Well, some key terms that I'll be using throughout the show, one of them being substance abuse. Anything can be abused. Any substance can be abused. Right now, we're talking about substances that are within the drug category, stuff that's not always legal. Things like heroin, cocaine, marijuana, prescription pills like Adderall and etc. That's what I'm talking about. And adolescence. In my eyes, the adolescent ranges from 13 to about mid-20s. After you get past, say, like 25 or 25 and older, you're an adult. Until 40s, that's like middle age, and then 65 and older, that's senior citizen. To me, I don't know if there's a set scale for that, but that's how I'm looking at it. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me or whatever. But that's what I'm going to be talking about, and that's the age group that I'm focusing on. I will include statistics from other age groups, such as senior citizens and adults, but the main focus is adolescents.
Very good. And of course, when we have our first commercial break, then we'll come back and we'll deal with that. But I think that some of the information that you can bring to us in reference to this should be very, very helpful for people within your age category. As a matter of fact, that's why.
Especially because we abuse substances the most. 60% of teens who abuse substances get them from other age groups. That just makes it easier for us to get it. That makes it easier for us to distribute it. That means more of us get them. So we're really an afflicted age group, honestly.
And so in a real sense, you're dealing with an area and with a group that should be very, very interested in some of the things that we're saying. And most of those individuals that fall within that group can relate to some of the terms that you will probably use that in a real sense, I might not even understand
Honestly,
them in a real sense.
You either know someone who abuses drugs or you are someone. And it's as simple as that.
And it's that prevalent. You think it's that prevalent?
It's that prevalent. I can tell you plenty. I won't, but I could tell you plenty of people who abuse substances. I haven't, thankfully, but I know plenty of my old classmates. And I just got out of middle school. Like, I know plenty of people. And it's sad.
And so you see, and these individuals we see walking around at the mall and at various other places, and and many of them might be involved in what we call substance abuse. And so, in a real sense, this is a real problem in America today, dealing with that particular, with all groups in a real sense, but especially with this particular group. And this is why we wanted to highlight what we're dealing with
We need to get awareness out for this. There's so many groups that help teenagers get off drugs, but we just need more awareness.
Okay, and so what we'll do, we'll take our first commercial break, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.
You did that at first, and you had me thinking that was from the end, so I stopped talking, and I kept giving it to you because I kept thinking it was going to end.
Yeah,
so I got confused. That's why I stopped talking, but I had more to say, but I was scared that I was going to go over.
Well, now, what we'll do, we'll come back for the second segment. And then this will be an 8-minute segment, and we're still talking about adolescence and substance abuse, and now you're free in a real sense to sort of build your information around within that 8-minute area. Can you do that?
Oh,
well,
you like my nails?
Yeah, yeah. Why you got them? You got one of them
Glitter.
silver.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this will be 7 minutes and 55 seconds, and I'm going to introduce the show again. So this is moving quite well here. I hope we can
Thank
move all
you.
and saying, you know. And all I'm going to say is let's pick up where we left off last time, and then you.
So I'm going to talk about, like, statistic-wise for this subject, and then I'm talking about, like, real-world experiences for the last segment is what I meant. And only do your eyebrows when it's about to end.
Like that?
Like, yeah.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Just make sure I get it, you know. I'll be looking at you. Just
I generally say it when, almost.
I know, but you cut me off, like, and I don't want to keep going. So just make sure I can.
Thank you and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Alana McLaughlin, and she's given us some information in reference to adolescence and substance abuse. And Alana, let's pick up where we left off during that first segment to have you continue your discussion in reference to some of the issues involved with adolescence and substance abuse. Let's do it from that perspective.
As I stated in the first segment, I will be referring to, any substance can be abused. Anything can be abused. But right now, for the purpose of the show, I'm solely talking about drugs, things that aren't meant to be abused, but still are. Things that are meant to, prescription drugs at least, are meant to help you, not to kill you. And so that's what I'll be talking about. Also, I will be focusing on the adolescent age group. In my eyes, that means 13 to say middle 20s. I will be including statistics from other age groups and etc., but I will be mainly focusing on teenagers, young adults. So as I said, or as I just said, substance abuse. What is substance abuse? Substance abuse, in a short layman's type term, is basically when someone gets something or gets a drug and they abuse it. They abuse its power. Drugs are meant to give you a temporary high or, make you forget about things, etc., etc. They're not meant to be used every hour of the day, every single day, to the point where you're sick and throwing up. That's a sign that you're addicted to that drug. Now, honestly, and you can look this up, 60% of seniors in high school don't think that marijuana is bad. And to be fair, marijuana doesn't necessarily kill people, but THC will make you addicted to marijuana. And it's 5 times stronger. That THC in marijuana is 5 times stronger than it was 20 years ago. So as you see, it's only getting stronger, which means it's only getting more addictive. And that's only, say, when you're high, and some people will love to argue about this, you don't think straight. Some people say, oh, well, being high makes me more productive, da, 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 da. You can be just as productive sober as you can high. And that's not something that has to be scientifically proven. That's just common sense. Anyone under the influence of drugs can be just as dumb or just as productive sober, but I feel like it's better to be sober. Why? Because drugs do nothing for you or do nothing for people around you. They only help you. Being high, say your job has a random drug test, you're going to lose your job. And things like that. They have more cons than they do pros. And so that's why anyone, if your state has legal medical marijuana, feel free to do that. But there's a difference between using it for medicinal purposes and abusing it. And that's what a lot of adolescents fail to see. Now, as I was saying about 60% of seniors, those are people who are about to be in our workforce, who we're going to have to depend on for clothing and hair and et cetera, and for all the necessities that we need. Do you want someone making your McDonald's burger high, or making your coffee high, or making your clothing high?
And
you don't.
So in a real sense, Alana, you're saying that this is quite prevalent among many groups, and statistically, you think that quite a number of young people are involved with abusing substances. And I think you've indicated for the most part, not only do they abuse drugs and et cetera, but they also deal with pharmaceutical items and et cetera, et cetera. That's a real problem that people ordinarily wouldn't associate with young people, but it's your contention that they also abuse prescription medications. Is that what we're saying? The
top 2 things that adolescents suffer from abusing: marijuana and prescription drugs. A lot of people say, well, why would teenagers abuse prescription drugs? Half of them can't even legally get them. You can. I can tell you firsthand that you can, because I had a couple prescription drugs when I had to have mouth surgery or gum surgery, whatever. But anyway, I was prescribed those drugs, and it's perfectly legal to be able to give a minor those. But I'm saying it's that easy to give them, and I'm glad that I received those because they did help with pain, and I didn't abuse them. I had parents who took them from me, would only give me some at a certain time, and etc. But a lot of people don't have parents who are aware of how big substance abuse, how prevalent it is. And you want to know a scary statistic? The United States, all the states, make up 5% of the world's population, entire world. We make up 75% of prescription drugs used. And so that's really a problem in the United States. That is a big problem. We only make up 5% of the world's population, but 75% of the world's prescription drugs go to us. We don't even have the majority of the world in our country. We're not that big of a country. That's That's alarming. That's highly alarming. And another statistic, 60% of adolescents get their drugs from an adult, or get prescription drugs at least from an adult or a family friend for free. So honestly, it's not even an issue that doctors are prescribing drugs to parents and et cetera for their issues. It's an issue of parents either not educating their children about substance abuse or not being careful to keep their drugs away. Like, parents will always say, well, I know my child wouldn't. You don't know that your child wouldn't, because I know plenty of parents who've sat up and said, I know my child wouldn't do so and so and so, and their child's locked up and doing God knows what and God knows where. So you can never be too careful. Even if you're 1,000% sure that your child wouldn't do something, there's always gonna be that one person in their life that's encouraging them to do that something. And maybe they'll fall under peer pressure and maybe they won't, but you can never be too sure. That's why parents and teenagers should educate themselves on substance abuse and how prevalent it is more frequently. This shouldn't be something that even has to be talked about. This should be something taught in schools. Same thing as like sex ed and things like that. We could prevent so much if we had proper education for things that were really hurting the adolescent community. High school students, sex education. They really don't have it in schools, and when they do have it in schools, they only talk about, say, just being
promiscuous or something.
And they don't really talk. They talk about saving yourself for marriage and things like that. They don't really talk about, if you're going to do it, these are the proper steps to take. These are the resources that you have in the event of pregnancy and things like that.
Okay, so Alana, what we'll do, we'll take this first commercial break, and we'll be back with our audience following this final commercial break. Yes,
because this is the part that I can slam dunk.
Mm-hmm. Now you got 10 minutes on this.
Ooh, even better.
You got that kind of information?
Yes. I mean, it's a part of your life. It's like you talking about your daily activities. You can talk about that all day. Why? Because it's like something you see every day, something you do every day.
And so it's that prevalent
it's
among
that bad. It's that bad. I could sit up and tell you a different experience for every grade. I mean, every grade I was in school. I'm not even just singling out my middle school. I have plenty of friends, or they're not really my friends anymore.
Yeah, when you start talking about that, make that clear that you're not talking specifically about your school, but all
but
schools,
middle schools,
middle schools in general, because of your experiences of knowing that some other students in there. So everybody don't think that.
It's crazy. I've seen strung out teenagers like and
you're gonna call this real world experiences. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
That's excellent information up until now.
Thanks.
10 more minutes and that'll be it for this show. Hope I can get AJ's show to go as smooth as this one.
Me too.
He should be out there soon, shouldn't he?
30 seconds out.
Yes, sir.
So thank you and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. The topic is adolescence and substance abuse, and we're fortunate to have with us Alana McLaughlin, who's already given us some excellent information in reference to the issue of adolescence and substance abuse. And Alana, let's pick up where we left off the last time and give you an opportunity to elaborate upon some of what I think you're going to call world experiences, some of your world experiences in reference to it. Let's talk about it from that perspective.
Well, for our viewers just turning in, or just tuning in, In the first two segments, I talked about how basically when I'm talking about all this, I'm focusing on the adolescent age group because in my eyes, that means 13 to middle 20s. And that's an age group that I can relate to because that's an age group I'm a part of. And that's one that I've been around frequently, and I'm always going to be around adolescents, as long as adolescents exist. And so that's what I talked about, and I talked about how the two biggest things that adolescents abuse, marijuana and prescription drugs. And some people may say, well, how do adolescents abuse prescription drugs? Parents, auntie, uncle, cousin, someone who had a surgery or did something and has leftover Adderall or stuff that's treated for, say, ADHD, that'd be Adderall. Who has leftover stuff like that, and they take that and they abuse that and they sell that and all that. But during this segment, I'm going to talk about real world experiences, and it's really disheartening to be able to talk about this because I'm only 13. I'll be 14 in a month. It's sad that a 13-year-old can sit up here and tell you countless encounters that I've had with people who are suffering from substance abuse and things like that. It's crazy how many people I know that I went to school with, had classes with, and I just finished middle school. It's crazy that I can sit up and tell you about so many people who suffer from this. I had a friend, I'm not going to say their name for legal purposes, but anyway, this friend, we're going to call him Joe. Joe was a Encore student. Encore is a program for gifted students. Joe just had everything going for him. Joe played football and basketball and was crazy smart. Like, I had to always get help from Joe in Encore class stuff because we had really challenging things. Anyway, I lost contact with Joe for, say, 2 years because Joe moved schools. But anyway, I saw Joe again, and all Joe does is sit around, smoke, do Xanax, drink, and I'm just like, oh my God. And it's not even the occasional blunt or bottle of alcohol. No, this is every single day. We see this every day. We hear about it every day. You can't have a conversation with the dude because his mind is so gone. It's that bad. Even when he's sober, he's slow because that stuff has, those dangerous cocktails have messed up probably his organs, his head, obviously. He can't think straight. Without it, he goes through withdrawals. He itches and goes crazy when he doesn't have his fix. And it's crazy to think. It's just like, I went to school with you. It's crazy. He shows the same traits as a crackhead. Like, it's that bad. And I know plenty of people who had so much going for them who threw it all away to party and waste their life away. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I refuse to ever do stuff like that. I don't hang out with those same people anymore and do all that because I've seen firsthand how easily that if you just let your guard down for once saying, oh, I can control it, I'll do this once and never again, it's not that easy. And I know that if I fell under something like that, I wouldn't have enough self-will to be able to pull myself from that hole. And I applaud the people who do because that takes a lot of strength to be able to kick an addiction. And so you are saying, Lana, that in your age group and in your category, that you have an opportunity to run across, every day.
Not only in just generally people who fall within that, and so it's such a massive problem all over. And
I was at the mall, I think a couple months ago, and we were in Pink, and the lady. Or she wasn't a lady. I guess she looked about 17 or 18. The girl that was in front of me and my friend Terry was just high as I don't know what. It was wild. I'm like, it's crazy. You can't go anywhere without encountering someone that's either strung out or high or whatever. And I'm not saying everywhere you go you'll see somebody like this, but I'm saying that if you go to heavily the places that adolescents frequent, mall, movies, restaurant, fast food, and stuff like that, you're bound to see someone high or something, and it's crazy. In middle school, and I'm not just saying my middle school, no, lots of middle schools, maybe even every middle school has somebody that's either silently suffering or just suffering and does not care, and a lot of this, all this stuff springs from your home life. All this could be prevented with stronger home lives. That's why I'm saying I don't blame parents who can't always be there for their kids, because I know that parents do have to work to make ends meet. But I'm saying that if you can't, get your child involved in programs such as like Boys and Girls Club and band and other happy programs that provide that family bond. Like, I'm in band, and we're just like, it's like my extended family. I have a great family at home, but it's even better to know that whenever y'all are busy, I have a whole set of people who I can talk to and bond with, and vice versa. It's just, you can never have too many people who are there for you. And a lot of people say, well, I got my parents and my siblings and da-da-da, I don't need. I mean, sure, you don't need it, but it's still nice to have. I don't need to be a part of a different group of people who I can bond with, but I do, and it helps.
Alana, so finally, do you think that the teachers and all of these other individuals are aware of all of these? What do you think that's being done in reference to, or what should the school do in reference to something like this?
Have more substance education training. More. You can never have enough. That could even be a side class, like say when you have like break times or at the end of the day when y'all are just cooling down, things like that. It'll help in the long run because a lot of parents aren't aware of it. A lot of teachers aren't. But I feel like if you get that proper education and your child is coming home telling you about this, then you go tell your neighbor, and your neighbor will tell yada yada blah. It has an impact. And it would really make a change if we had the schools, because that's the one place that we're forced to go by law, school. If you have schools teaching it, it's going to make a difference because everybody goes to school. So I just personally feel that that's something that should be taught in schools. And you always have those certain teachers who will talk about it, but I feel like we should have classes about it and education and how to stay away from stuff like that, because it's sickening to see how many people suffer from something that could easily have been prevented with just proper training and knowledge about it.
And so you were talking about something, Lana, during this last minute and a half that we have. You're talking about something that a lot of students in middle school and et cetera,
high school, college,
see this problem the same way you see it, even many of those that are caught up in it. But it appears that schools and churches and regular society, we're doing nothing in order to try to counter this. And
they're not. And there are some programs, that are dedicated to helping adolescents and teens with substance abuse, but there's not enough. You don't hear about it as widespread as it needs to be. People don't realize that this is a problem. This is just as big as gun violence, and, well, a little smaller than gun violence, but still, we just need more advocates for things like that. And I'm trying to be that by sitting here and telling people firsthand, like, I've seen this. It's not just something that I'm reading off the internet. I can tell you straight up that I know people who are suffering from this. I've seen people dying over this. People throwing away great opportunities over stuff like drugs, and it's not worth it. It's not at all. And I just feel like more people need to know that.
Okay,
more parents.
So let me thank you for bringing us that excellent information. And let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning. you know. And so, but I'm glad you could make it. I'm glad you can take Alana back, you know, to the house, because otherwise she would have to stay down here until the rest of the day.
It's Millard Fuller.
Huh?
So that's Millard Fuller, the founder of the Fuller Center.
Oh, is that who that is?
Yeah.
Okay. And so they got everything up. And so they're going to have first few minutes, we're going to deal with you, you know, background, education, and experiences. And then we're going to show that and give you an opportunity.
Y'all want to hear these videos as well?
Yeah.
Well, actually, there's only one video. That's in the segment one part.
Segment one
And then
video.
the rest are still photos.
The rest is still photos.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want audio from that video?
We could do that because it kind of explains what the Fuller Center is about. So I guess I'll start off kind of talking about who I am, and then about the Fuller Center bike adventure, and then you could play the video then because it explains you know, exactly what the bike adventure is all about, and then I'll talk about, you know, the rest of the stuff under.
We had some ideas and tried working on various things, and then at one point I made a suggestion to him on a single sheet of paper and showed it to him, had at the top Fuller Center Bicycle Adventure, and he looked at it, read through the proposal, and said, you know, my favorite word on this sheet of paper is the word annual. And so we've been doing the rides ever since. That was in 2008 was our first ride. And that year we went to San Diego, California.
Yeah,
I mean,
six
well,
minutes.
will it play
Georgia,
on
we had
air
just 8 of us
here in the whole
across the
thing?
country.
If it will, then
I mean, we can play the whole thing. That's pretty much going to take up most of that first segment.
yeah, that's fine. I mean, that is a big part of.
Yeah.
We want to play the whole thing.
Yeah. That's why we wanted to have that 6 minutes. And we're going to play the whole thing during this first segment after I introduce him. And then I'll say, let's look at the video after that, and then we can switch to the video for the rest of that segment. So you open that first segment with me, introducing the two of us. And then I'll make some statements, and he'll make some statements, and then I'll say, let's watch the video.
Yeah.
And then we click the video on to go for the next 6 minutes, you see. And then he'll be making comments in reference to the video when it's appropriate,
He's got a plan to toss to you, pretty much. He'll introduce, what's your name again? I'm sorry.
Alvin?
He'll introduce Alvin will introduce Scott, and then Kenny will toss to you.
And don't switch that chair. Make that chair move.
Well, and will I be able to watch there? Then?
Yeah, you just watch it in any
You
of
said at number
yeah,
6.
Yeah, you
you
just
told me to turn right
yeah.
there.
Well, you just don't. Nah.
So I can watch on too.
Hey, Dr. Haney, since it's about a 3-minute video.
Okay.
So if we get 2 minutes into the top of the segment and we haven't tossed to it, I'm gonna give you I'll do this. Say toss to the video. So we can get it in there, play the whole thing. Then we got about a minute to come out to y'all to wrap it up. Before we go to commercial break.
And that's right. Well, that sounds good. You just let me know when you're coming in. Sure.
So, you hear that?
Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is summer cycling adventure, And we're fortunate to have with us to talk about summer cycling adventure, Alvin Haney. Alvin Haney is a teacher at Meg's Magnet School, and he has a lot of information in reference to his summer adventure, riding a bicycle all over many, many places. AJ, let's see if we can have you to make some statements in reference about some of the things that you've been involved with.
Okay, well, thank you for inviting me to come along to the show again this year. As a school teacher, we have the summers off, so I spend most of my summers enjoying, the free time and not having to educate, but I also like to do a lot of bicycling. I call myself an endurance cyclist, and in cycling, I like to go out and, do lots of miles, where a typical person on a Sunday evening may go and do 5 to 10 miles. I want to go do 80 or 90 miles. So I found myself in the situation where I'm looking for bigger and bigger adventures to participate in.
Okay, and so I think that what we'll do, we'll look at some of those, some of your activities in reference to
Well, one of the groups that I do participate with is the Fuller Center Bike Adventure. And I think the video is explaining what the Fuller Center is all about, why they have the bike adventure, and it'll kind of let you know one of the things I was involved in.
Okay, they're going to run that now.
My name is Ryan Ifield. 9 years ago, God led me to come join the Fuller Center for Housing as a volunteer straight out of college. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do there, but I had the charge given by Millard Fuller, the founder of the organization. He asked me to try to help get the next generation involved. So we had some ideas and we tried working on various things. And then at one point, I made a suggestion to him on a single sheet of paper and showed it to him, had at the top Fuller Center Bicycle Adventure. And he looked at it, read through the proposal, and said, my favorite word on this sheet of paper is the word annual. And so we've been doing the rides ever since. That was in 2008 was our first ride. And that year we went from San Diego, California to Savannah, Georgia. We had just 8 of us go across the country. We stopped and worked on various Fuller Center build sites. As usual, we also had different segment riders who joined us as we went. But the idea that we had that very first year is exactly what we still do with Fuller Center Bicycle Adventure today. It's just on a larger scale. It's been growing and growing. It's been terribly exciting. So today we have about 35 riders who are crossing the country. It's actually so many we had to break into 2 rides. We have 35 going the whole way and about another 60 who are doing 3 weeks or 5 weeks or 1 week, different segments along the way. Break it up into week-long segments just to give everyone an opportunity to join. And all of us who are part of the journey stop and we just stay in churches along the way. We live very simply, but we live very fine. It's very, very good. We get to meet lots of people in the communities. We speak to churches. We get opportunities to share about what we're doing, why we're doing it. And then, whenever possible, we stop at a Fuller Center for Housing project along the way, lend our own hands, whether it's hammering nails or painting or laying a roof or cleaning the yard, whatever we're doing, contributing to the work of the Fuller Center for Housing. And so today, it's a tremendous opportunity for people to get involved with the work that we do. It's a little tour de Fuller of visiting Fuller Center projects across the United States, and a great way to raise support for all the work and donations of people we meet, but also those who the riders already know, their family and friends and their home churches, and their co-workers, whoever chooses to support it. We invite you to come get involved with what we're doing. Come ride with us. As we say, ride a bike or ride a check. Either way, come get involved, take some action, do something with the Fuller Center for Housing.
Washington to Washington! Hooray!
Now, this gives us an opportunity during the second segment to talk about some more of those activities that you are involved in. But this is something that you've been involved with for many, many years. Is it not, AJ?
Yes, it is. This is my 5th year with the Fuller Center. As you see, I participated in just a part of the bike adventure this year. Last year I was able to go coast to coast, to go from California to Maine, and so I chose to only do 2 weeks this year with them. Another part of the things that I did this summer was to make sure that I covered as many states as I could. You know, after achieving the goal of going cross country, my next goal is to cycle in all 50 states. So I was able to ride with the Fuller Center. I was able to ride my bike, you know, before the Fuller Center adventure and after, to try to cover as many states as I could.
Okay, and so what we'll do, we'll take our first commercial break, and then we'll come back and we'll start with the second segment. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. On the from the video, and so this is the second video we're going to come back up now. What
So they're going to show the pictures while we're.
Right, so do you want to run through all the pictures all at once?
I don't know. With the timing, I mean, I basically just go through all the states. I have, I think, one picture for each state, kind of talking about the states that I traveled through. And I guess if you, well, I don't know how, whatever you think is best, you know, where we could show the picture and I could, you know, say, well, that's where I was in so-and-so or this and that, or, you know, lots of state
I think
lines.
what might be easiest for us is to pop the pictures up. You'll see them on these
Right,
screens right
right.
over here, and you can talk about
Right.
what that is, and then we'll go to the next one.
Right,
And you can talk about
right,
that.
right. Okay.
So it'd be easier for us to pop them up and you follow along with it than
Right.
you try to talk
Right,
about it and
right,
try to pop it up.
right,
Yeah,
right.
good.
That's
Well, that's
fine.
good.
That's fine.
And so what I'll do during the second segment is just introduce the second segment, and then you'll start.
Right.
Well,
27.
I guess you can tell us, you know, y'all can pretty much say, I've got some pictures.
Yeah.
pop up.
Yeah, I want to.
Okay, good. I'll welcome them back to the show and give them the topic, and then we'll say that something about the pictures that we have available. And let's look at watch some of the pictures, and then you look at that, and as they pop up, you explain them. Yeah, this is working. I didn't know how we're going to do. I knew I want that drive. Don't leave here with that. You understand that?
Well, I never did get it back last time.
Oh, you did? Yeah, I know. I got it. I got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you got to get it from them. You get it from them in case they need it the rest of the day, and then when you leave.
What you call this? Bicycling adventures.
Summer cycling adventure.
Summer cycling adventures. And this is where we're going to bring up the idea that you got some pictures that you might want to show, and then they're going to start.
Well, just say, tell me a little bit more about, you know, what you did this summer. And then I'll start it off with where I started, and I'll say, we'll go to the pictures, and they'll pop them up. And I should be able to tell what state I'm in.
When you go out there, you tell the folks that we'll be with them after a while. Pastor Walker's out there. I think he's out there, and him and the men in uniform. That's they didn't come to arrest anybody. He brought them with him. We're going to talk about community policing, whatever. Summer cycling adventures.
Take a minute to get the pictures downloaded.
Now, we'll have 8 minutes for this segment. You see, however, they cut it up there. And then we'll come back to that final segment. Now, you're doing the pictures on this segment. Now, what are you going to do on that?
There's more pictures.
Good, that's good. And so the way we were able to weave this into what we're doing now, you see what we're doing? You see how it's, I mean, we're getting the audio. I don't know. See, you know. So you know the audio that you had. And so we're picking that audio up when we, okay, good. Gotta try to get out of here. We don't run out of time here. I will be loading all of them at the same time here. All right?
We're still waiting on him getting all the pictures together.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta download them from the thumb drive to the computer and then set them up in a slideshow, so.
Mm-hmm. Will we be able to run all of those on through the rest of the show? Yeah, that'll be good. show lining up here. So I get out of this one, go into here, and then by that time we can pick up some time here on Dr. Baldwin's show. Thank you and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Alvin Haney, and he's giving us some information in reference to cycling during the summer. And he's already given us some information in reference to the reason that he became involved with what he's doing. Let's pick up at this point, AJ, and let's see if we can watch some of the images that you have. I think that
Like I said, the second goal that I had was definitely to make sure that I cycled in as many states as I could this summer. I was able to cycle in 19 different states, which was 13 new ones to me, and kind of took some images along the way. A lot of them I tried to find the state line sign, trying to find out where it says welcome to whatever state that you're in, and that ended up being quite a task itself. But again, I did bring along some images, and I can share those with you as well.
Okay, I think we're making preparation for those.
Okay, so Montana was one of the states that I traveled in with the Fuller Center Bike Adventure. We were able to start in Seattle, Washington, and go across Washington to Montana, and stopping in, and also through Idaho and stopping in Yellowstone Park in Montana. So that was when I found that state line sign. Idaho, again, that was before Washington. We got a chance to stay in Kellogg, Idaho, with one of the Fuller Center Covenant partners there, and that is one of the pictures there. There I'm on the Coeur d'Alene Trail, which is one of the nicer bike trails that they have in Idaho. It's a 54-mile trail. We had to do a lot of climbing on our bicycles. We had to go up a lot of mountain passes, and this is going up Stevens Pass on a very cold morning in the state of Washington. The climbing aspect of cycling is not something I'm very good at, but I'm learning to love it. This was our starting day in Washington, Seattle, Washington, kind of overlooking the landmarks there and starting there at the ocean in Seattle. They are actually traveling from Seattle, Washington to Washington, D.C. And as I said, I chose to only do 2 weeks with them. Getting out to Washington State, of course, I had to go through a few states. I had to travel through Oregon, so stopped in Eugene, Oregon. I had to stop in Sacramento, California, and I did some cycling there. It was another state that I was able to cover. I went through Las Vegas, Nevada, and this is one of the landmarks in Las Vegas as I cycled with one of the local clubs there. Of course, I had to go through Arizona, and was able to stay with some family members as well, traveling through Arizona, through New Mexico, had to cross there. There is Oklahoma City, I believe, or Albuquerque, yeah, Albuquerque, New Mexico, I believe, is that particular image in one of the parks there. Went through Dallas, Texas, so was able to stay in one of the suburbs of Dallas and do some riding as well. This one is in Louisiana, which was the first state that I stopped in, and at one of the parks there in Louisiana.
And so, in a real sense, AJ, all of this information is, you've done this for how many years have you been involved in
Well,
this?
I've been involved with cycling since 2009. Got really serious about it about 2011 or 12. And at that time, I, just started setting some goals. I want to do a 100-mile ride. I was able to do that. And then I want to, travel from, one state to another, and was able to do that. And so it just kind of grew out of, a love of cycling, of staying fit, and and I found a way to use that to also help people. So with the Fuller Center, I'm able to use the donations that are raised to help different families, which is part of the mission of the Fuller Center, to raise money to help families with their housing so that everybody has a safe place to live. The second thing that I raised donations for this year was also the Alumni Association at Tennessee State University. I am a graduate of Tennessee State University, and our fraternity chapter, Alpha Phi Alpha, and the BO Alumni Association also put on a bike ride, and they've been doing that since 1989. They put on a bike ride where we ride our bikes from Nashville to Memphis, and we do that every September. That is also a charity ride, so we raise funds to do that. So instead of, I guess, asking my generous donors to contribute more than one time per year, I just kind of lumped them both together. So I was able to raise enough money to participate with the Fuller Center, and also to give funds to the Alumni Association, which will go to some deserving college students over at Tennessee State University.
And so you've been involved with charitable work as well as part of your strengthening program, I would imagine, in terms of bicycles. And now, how many people actually rode with you this time?
Well, I kind of broke it into three segments. The first segment was actually driving my car from Nashville to Seattle. So that was on my own, going through all the states that we just saw, and getting to Seattle. Once I got to Seattle and with the Fuller Center, and I think he explained in the video, there were 30 plus people who were going all the way from Seattle, Washington to Washington, D.C. And I participated in the first 2 weeks of that, which, was the one that had really the most participation throughout all the segments that they're going to do. They break it into 9 1-week segments. So I did segments 1 and segments 2, going from Washington and then going into Idaho, and then the second week going from Idaho and into West Yellowstone, Montana. So approximately, 30 plus people who are going the whole way, but at any point during any week of the segment, there could be 40 or 50 people with them.
And so people become involved with this, and it plays a very, very important part in what you call charitable work that the Fuller Center does.
Right.
I understand that you need funds in order to keep this activity going and
Yes,
in order
definitely.
to support this. Talk about that fundraising aspect
The
of it.
donations go towards the national organization, the National Fuller Center for Housing, but there's also a local organization. We do have the Middle Tennessee, where we call a covenant partner, which is one of the local chapters. So the Middle Tennessee Fuller Center for Housing is where all my donations went. Each cyclist gets to allocate the funds to whichever local organization they would want to. So with there being covenant partners all over the country, of course I chose the one that most affected me and back at home. And so I'm able to raise money for them. It goes towards the local organization, and then the local organization seeks applicants who need a hand and need help with their housing.
And so it serves a real purpose in terms of bringing people together and giving an idea in terms of how things you might be able to achieve certain things. And what we're going to do, we're going to take this second commercial break, and then we're going to come back and allow you to further elaborate upon some of these things. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. And so we can go right into this.
Yeah, well, he's gonna give you a 2-minute break. And then
Okay, then that sounds good.
just remember to try to keep your body turned towards the camera, because you got
Towards that camera?
straight on unless you're hanging there.
Okay, got it.
You got it. So you're picking up everything.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I didn't know how this would work. Now, this final segment will have those pictures, but for me to open it up, what do you want to talk about specifically? I mean, in addition to the pictures.
Just open up with that there's three parts. So tell us about, the third part of your mission,
1 minute out.
because we already got me driving to Seattle, what I did from Seattle to Yellowstone, and then just say, well, tell me about the third part of your bicycle adventure.
Which is what? What do you call it?
Which is basically just driving from Montana, getting from Montana and back home. Montana and back home.
30 seconds.
Bicycling out west. What is it?
Summer cycling adventure.
Summer cycling adventure.
Stand by, Dr. Haney.
Okay. Thank you and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. We're talking to Alvin Haney, and he's giving us some information in reference to some of his summer cycling adventure. And let us see if we can pick up, AJ, and talk about some of the other activities. And I think we have some images that we want to project on the screen, dealing with some still photos and et cetera.
Right. The third leg of my trip was after I left the Fuller Center, kind of going back home. So, of course, I had to go through South Dakota, and that's where we see Mount Rushmore, and I was able to stay in Spearfish, South Dakota, and meet some great people there. I was able to go to North Dakota, and there we see Fargo and Moorhead. In North Dakota, that Fargo is right on the border of Minnesota, so I was able to cycle in 2 states there, and I was able to cover 2 birds with 1 stone. Same thing with Iowa and Nebraska. I stayed in Omaha, Nebraska, and so therefore I was right there on the border with Iowa, so I kind of got 1 foot in each of those 2 states and was able to cover that particular area. From there, went on to Chicago, and one of the suburbs of Chicago is Oswego, and I was able to do cycling in kind of the Chicago suburbs as well, staying with relatives and just, kind of seeing Lake Michigan and all of that. From there, went on to Michigan and Indiana. I was able to stay at South Bend, Indiana, which was on the border of Indiana and Michigan, kind of strategically placing those particular states where I could cycle in 2 states at once. So there's my completed map, or where I've done so far. I've covered 38 out of the 50 states. I only have the East Coast to do, and from what I hear from the future plans for the Fuller Center is that next year they are actually going to cycle the East Coast. So their plans for next summer are to have 2 different rides. The ride that they're going to do from Seattle, Washington down to Oceanside, California. So they're going to do the West Coast ride. And then, of course, they're going to bring our supplies in van all the way across the country. And then they're going to start in Portland, Maine and go down to Key West, Florida. So at some point in there, in the Portland, Maine to Key West, I should be able to cover 10 more of those states, bring me up to 48, leaving me with only Alaska and Hawaii before I've cycled in all 50 states. So that's where I'm headed.
And so your goal is to cycle in 50 of the continental United States of America, and so you've almost accomplished that in a real sense.
I'm very close. I started off with 25, and I got 13 new states, so I'm at 38, and really looking forward to trying to achieve my goal of having all 50 states. That's what I want to do.
Is there much competition among riders to see who can get to as many states as possible?
Well, there's camaraderie around riders.
But
as far as locally, I do know a few local cyclists who have done, a lot of the states. I don't know of any that have done all 50, but if there's competition, then I hope I'm in there, or I'm part of that pack. Cycling, it has great health benefits. It's one of the things that I really love to do. Most cyclists, I would say, are former runners. Used to be a runner, and then when the knees give out or you've had a few surgeries, you turn into a cyclist. You ask the doctor, well, what should I do to keep my health up? And they say there's much less impact to cycle a bike. So I agree with that 100%, and that's what I do to stay in shape.
And so you've been riding not only with the Fuller Center, but you have also done quite a bit of riding with local groups in Tennessee, going to various places,
Yes,
Memphis. And say something about
I belong
that.
to a couple local cycling clubs. One of them, one that I actually founded, is the Domestiques Cycling Club, and we're based out here out of Nashville. We do charity rides. We participate weekly, where we're just going out and getting our exercise for the day. So we have rides on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Usually the weekday rides are 20 miles or less, and you'd be surprised that 20 miles may sound like a lot, especially if you're thinking about running 20 miles, but on a bicycle, 20 miles could take you an hour, hour and a half or so, and the benefits are just exorbitant. So with our 20-mile weekly rides, and then on the weekends, we tend to go 50 miles plus, 70, 80 miles might be a typical weekend ride, especially once, June and July hit, and we've had, since March to, train up to those amount of mileages. So I do that with them as a way, again, to kind of support the community. We invite everybody to come along and ride with our cycling club, and it's something that I think you would enjoy.
What are some of the most important things that you remember from your rides all over the nation here? I mean, talk about some of those most important experiences that you've had.
Okay, well, with my rides, again, the charity aspect is definitely something that I believe strongly in, as far as giving back to the community, helping people with their housing. But for me personally, it's seeing the people who are willing to be there to help us. When we do these charity rides, we stay at local churches, we stay in school gyms, we stay at the community center, and there's always people there who are willing to give of their time. A lot of times they cook meals for us, so they're willing to cook for us, and just find joy in that, and just meeting the people across the country who are so willing to give and so helpful, and wanting to help people who are helping others. It makes them feel part of the cycle. It definitely encourages and lifts us up, and gives us what we need as far as being able to sustain our bodies and do the physical demands of riding an average of 80 miles a day. So it's really just the people. The people really mean a lot to me, as far as them being there to help, wanting to give, wanting to assist us with our mission.
And so you would advise people who might be interested in what you're doing, what would you advise them to do? And how would they be able to assist you?
Okay. Well, I did set up a GoFundMe site, and I believe the address will appear on the end result here. So the GoFundMe, and it's Haney Cycling, I believe, or Haney Cyclist is what you would search for. And again, I had to raise donations for the Fuller Center, raise donations for Tennessee State University, so that could definitely be a big help as far as those missions, being successful. So the donations help, the well wishes help, the fact that I have people along the way as I post on social media, the images you saw and more, and what I'm doing daily. Them just giving me a thumbs up or a like, or giving me a comment like "you go" or keep it up, really mean a lot as far as helping me achieve what I need to do.
And you've made quite a number of friends in that kind of activity among those who you ride with.
Definitely. As I was riding in Omaha, I actually just riding along the street and rode next to another cyclist, and found out that he has a similar mission. That he, the week after I ran into him, that he was starting a bike ride where he started in Oregon, and he's going all the way, across to Philadelphia. And so, meeting other people with similar interests, similar, views, and similar, need to help people, that means a lot.
AJ, I think that this is an extraordinary activity that you're taking part of, and that you ultimately wish to ride in all 50 of the continental United States, and you've almost covered many of them, and you really think that you can, in the end, cover all of the states.
Well, I had to come up with another goal. So again, coast to coast is done, so the 50 states is next, and you know, who knows what's after that? I guess I got to take it internationally.
Do you find folks interested in riding in Alaska and Hawaii or whatever? I mean,
There are people there. I found that out last summer. I didn't know that there were people in Maine until I got there. So if there's people there, there's a cyclist there. So cyclists are interested in getting the work done.
And people become all hyped up in reference to
Yes,
this
sir.
activity, and they generally want to take part in it, and there's a great camaraderie between people who ride bicycles.
I'm always encouraging people in our club and people that I run into to, you know, come out and learn about cycling, learn about, you know, what it takes to, you know, ride in a group. It's, you know, different than just, you know, your Sunday stroll down to the grocery store. But, you know, again, it's a worthwhile activity, and you can help some people along the way.
And AJ, let me thank you over the last half minute that we have for giving us that excellent information in addition to the photographs that you've shown us today. And let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.